Just keep doing the work. I tell young broadcasters all the time, you're not going to get paid anything in your 20s. You're not going to get any respect until your mid-30s. You may not make any money until your mid-40s. Just keep laying the bricks down. If you do good work, people notice. And Andy Reid's on the show tomorrow. His last 10 years, it could be the opposite of Belichick. Belichick's first 10 were great. First 20 were great. His last 5 or 6 could be choppy without Brady. Andy Reid had a lot of critics. How about his last 10 with Mahomes? I mean, I'm always happy when I know people are committed to something and they're undervalued. They don't quite get the love. The series of bad breaks. There is bad luck. People have bad breaks. And then all of a sudden at the end of their career, boom, they hit. Andy Reid's one of those guys. It's like he wasn't successful. He got to a Super Bowl. He dominated the NFC, but it's like, boom, he deserves it. All right, here we go. So everybody says you can't trade Jared Goff. That was what we were saying 2 weeks ago. And the Rams said, hold my beer. You can trade anybody. You can trade anybody. Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston. Everybody's like, you can't get rid of him. Okay, so let me just propose this to America and Joy. So in order to make this work, the reason Goff is gone is because McVay had the respect and power in the building. You can't give up Goff for that without everybody thinking the coach will figure it out. So who has the most power in the NFL outside of probably Belichick and Andy Reid today? Who has the longest contract? John Gruden. Gruden's got 8 years left. He has a direct pipeline to Mark Davis. Mark Davis, fascinated with Gruden. Mike Mayock, in the building, Gruden gets final say. So outside of Andy Reid and Belichick, in fact, contractually to a greater degree, John Gruden has the most power in the NFL. So there's a lot of good quarterbacks in the NFL. Dak Prescott's good. Matt Ryan's good. Kirk Cousins good. Derek Carr good. They don't win Super Bowls. Great does. Raiders call up 4 first-round picks, Derek Carr and tight end Darren Waller, second best tight end in the sport. You don't think the Texans would listen? You can win a lot of games with Derek Carr. You can win a lot. Colts don't have a quarterback. Jags going to have a rookie. You can win a lot of games in that division with Derek Carr, Darren Waller, and 4 first-round picks. What do the Texans have to do? The Texans have to get cap space relief, and they need draft picks to rebuild. You get all of them, plus the second-best tight end on the planet. There are Sundays he's the best tight end on the planet. You don't think you take the phone call? Do you want to have a guy in the building that doesn't want to be there? People always say you don't get equal value. I'm not saying there is equal value, but if I got 4 first-round picks, folks, Jared Goff, the Rams gave up 6 picks to get him and 3 to get rid of him. 9. You don't think Deshaun Watson's worth 4 first-round picks and Darren Waller? And it's not like you're sticking me with some, tomato can. I get Derek Carr. Didn't Derek Carr lead the NFL in completion percentage? He wins a lot of games. And the Rams, by the way, they've got offensive personnel they could throw in. They've got a great running back, a great tight end, multiple receivers. They have a way above average offensive line. Throw in your right tackle. Just throwing it out there. Everybody always tells me, you can't make a deal. I've been doing this for 30 years. There's always a deal to make. Just depends on what you offer. There's always a deal to make. Am I nuts on this? It's not.
No, not at all. That would make that division very interesting.
Yeah, let's not.
If it goes to the Raiders.
I think Derek Carr is better than Kirk Cousins. I think Derek Carr today is better than Matt Ryan slightly. He and Dak Prescott are close.
Well, the equal value is this idea that you're going to get Deshaun Watson back in a trade. Surfacely, that's how everyone looks at trades. Like, who won this trade? Did you get this? Did you get that? Like, is this player bad? Just because a player is traded doesn't mean that he is bad.
Right.
At all. Jared Goff was just playing in a Super Bowl. Now, I don't think Jared Goff is playing at the level he was playing that year, but he was still just playing in a Super Bowl a few years ago.
Yeah, Goff can play. The question is, what's he going to look like with Dan Campbell?
But there's fit. Well, yeah, I mean, look, like similarly to the Belichick-Brady conversation, it's much safer to be on the Stafford-Rams side of this trade than it is with Goff. I think it's going to be a rough time for him there. But my point is, the equal value conversation is you want to get the same thing in the trade. That's not how trades work. Sometimes you need something, another team needs something else, cap space, picks.
Yeah.
There's not a fit. There's all kinds of things that go into this. There's more nuance than that.
Scott Pioli, by the way, was just on. If I recall, I could be wrong. Pioli last year said Detroit should draft Herbert. should have asked him that. I think he did.
Well, if he did say that, he was very right.
Colin right, Colin wrong on a Monday. We're loaded today. Jimmy Johnson, the Hall of Famer, too, next hour. Greenlighting all of this. LeBron's in town and winning. The Dodgers are rolling. LA's never had more quality teams. Even the Clippers are good now. What did they do this weekend? They outdueled the Niners, the Colts, the Patriots reportedly. The reality is this is Stan Kroenke. Spent about $4 billion more in the stadium than he wanted, and they couldn't put any people in it this year. And he has told the organization, I'm not finishing third and fourth in this market. We're the NFL. We're going to win this market. And this is a real thing inside the building. It's the reality of being in a market with LeBron and being in a market with the Dodgers is that you got to win in Los Angeles. Nobody can afford 3 season tickets, and they were hyper-aggressive as we've predicted.
Where Colin was right?
Matt Stafford said, I'll go anywhere but New England. Now, I love the Patriots style, but I've said now over the last year, you take Brady out and the system's not as attractive. I said for years, when Brady leaves, New England will no longer be a topic on our show day in, day out. Now, part of it is this year, Brady's so great, they were so bad. They have no weapons. Belichick tends to have a fairly rigid system. They don't spend on free agents. And this goes to show you that quarterbacks, don't give me this Matt Patricia thing, quarterbacks want weapons. Peyton Manning chose Denver, they had weapons. Brady chose Tampa, they had weapons. Tampa wasn't a winning franchise. They had weapons. Stafford wants to throw to great players. He's been unable to, mostly outside of Calvin Johnson in Detroit, and New England's not attractive when you take out Tom because they don't have anybody else on offense.
Where Colin was wrong.
Listen, I defended Jared Goff for 2-3 years. I thought he was going to be in L.A. forever. I think he's a good kid. I don't think he's needy. I've said I think he reminds me of Matt Ryan, but throws a better deep ball. He won a ton. He got to a Super Bowl. He was 42-20 with Sean McVay. I don't know what happened this year. He lost a lot of confidence. His fumbling got really, really bad. That Dolphins game where Miami had 8 first downs and beat them. They lose to the Jets. I don't know if it's confidence. I don't know what it was. It wasn't just a broken hand. They benched him essentially up in Seattle. They benched him for a game. And so I'm wrong on that. I thought he was going to be around for a long time.
Where Colin was right?
The Texans was not going to get filled, I kept saying. It's a bad job. Eric Bieniemy, do not take the job. Reality is David Culley's a nice guy, but you don't hire a 64-year-old, 65-year-old that's never even been a coordinator if he's really the top guy on your list. That he's not. He accepted the job. He wasn't going to get a head coaching job, and this is what he's going to get. Now, who knows what happens with Deshaun Watson. It'll be hard not to win some games, but this now feels like a cult. The stories out of Houston make this a completely undesirable job, and you can have a great quarterback. That's fine. But in the end, you cannot win in this league if 16 out of 16 weeks you have worse schemes and worse coaching. And Houston now can almost guarantee that.
Where Colin was wrong.
The Sixers are 14-1 when Embiid and Ben Simmons play together. I've never thought it works. Embiid now is playing like the MVP of the league. Simmons always gives you about the same numbers. But Doc Rivers has helped because Tobias Harris used to be a Clipper. And right now, Tobias Harris is playing great basketball. He's averaging 20+, and he was always about a 16, 17-point-a-game player. So the Doc Rivers thing is working. Embiid and Simmons are working. And, I'll say this about Doc Rivers. I should never doubt him. Doc Rivers, that Boston championship team had a lot of egos. Rondo was prickly, and Garnett was the man, and Paul Pierce had been the man, and here comes Ray Allen. He just made it work. There are certain coaches, Joe Torre of the Yankees had this. There's a fatherly kind of a respect. They're like the stepdad that you don't want to tick off, And there's something about Doc Rivers making it work in Philadelphia, 14-1 when Embiid and Simmons play.
Where Colin was right?
Seattle's offense, players don't like it. I've been told that multiple times the last 2 years about Pete Carroll's offense. And last week, DK Metcalf came out and said, we run, pass. We run, pass. Teams figured us out. That is the second Seahawk player who I've heard from that has said they're getting bored. They don't feel their schemes are up to par. And now players are saying it publicly. Russell Wilson's just too nice. He'll say nice things, go Hawks. DK Metcalf, not so nice, brutally honest, called out Seattle.
Where Colin was right?
You cannot win with KD, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. You got to move Kyrie. He's a terrible defensive player. The Brooklyn Nets last night gave up 149 points to Washington. It didn't go to overtime. That was regulation. Last 8 games, 7 of them, they've given up 123 points or more. Listen, it's not all about talent in this league. KD and Harden, with good supporting players, can win the East. I have no doubt in my mind. But the idea that Kyrie and Harden are going to work, they're both terrible on the defensive end. Not to win some games, but this now feels like a cult. The stories out of Houston make this